You're live.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we are here now. Welcome to the first summer series of Fiske Planetarium's Dome to Home. We are happy to be with you today, and thank you for being with us. While Fiske has gone dark on social media today, we still wanted to bring some of the wonders of the universe to you. Our mission is to create educational content that can engage, inspire, and build an inclusive community, and we're here with you. So my name is Rémy. I'm an astronomy student at CU and a presenter at Fiske Planetarium. And below me,
Hello, my name is Amanda. I'm a navigator at Fiske Planetarium, and on behalf of everybody, thank you for joining us today. We're glad to be doing this.
Absolutely. So today we wanted to talk about something that we all share, the sky. So we'll be sharing with you some of what you can see in the sky in the summer from the Northern Hemisphere. And all you have to do to see it is look up. Get as far away as you can from city lights to see these, but some of these brighter stars you can even see within a city. If, while we're talking, you have a question, go ahead and hop into the chat and feel free to ask it. We do this live so that we can interact with you and address the questions that you have in real time, so definitely take advantage of that. In the chat, we have our question master Tara, who will relay the questions to us. Brianna is also helping out today. So we're going to start with the night sky as it will appear tonight. And because we're located in Boulder, Colorado, we have ourselves oriented there, as you can see. But right now, it's clearly the middle of the day, and we're only looking at part of the sky. So let's take a moment. We're going to lay back so that we can see the entire sky. And let's watch time pass until the sun goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's summertime right now, so the sun takes a really long path across the sky, and it is going to take quite a while before the sun actually sets.
So where we are, the sun sets at around 8:30-ish tonight. However, all that light is still bouncing around in the atmosphere, which means we don't really get rid of all that sunlight until after 10. So we're going to head to about 10:30 tonight. And we've got the moon.
Hopefully staying up until 10:30 is pretty easy on these long summer nights.
Unless you're a kid, it's past your bedtime, right? So here we go. So what we're going to talk about specifically are constellations, which are just patterns in the sky, and that's all it is. You know, hundreds of cultures see the sky in hundreds of ways, and even you can look at the sky and see something completely different from anyone else. So the International Astronomical Union has official constellations, many of which are derived from Greek tradition, and they're mostly used as a way to divide the sky so that we can keep track of where things are, you know, in a more official sense. But there are plenty of neat stories to go along with those and neat stories from all over the world. We'll try to hit on some of them with the time that we have. But we encourage you to keep learning and looking into it if it's something that you find interesting. But here we are tonight, 10:30, June 2nd, 2020. And we're going to start with one of the easier things to find in the sky. It's a pretty well-known constellation, and the stars are pretty bright, so you can see it from a lot of areas. And that would be the Big Dipper.
Yeah, it's got a lot of very bright stars, so hopefully it's a super easy one to pick out.
It's also super easy to pick out because it's up all year round, the Big Dipper, because it happens to be closer to that North Star there, so it goes around. So the Big Dipper is what's called an asterism, which is it's kind of like a constellation, but it's not one of those official ones that we talked about before. But it's just any pattern that you see in the sky. It's just fairly well known. If you're having trouble seeing it, though, here, feel free to go full screen, maybe turn up the brightness on your screen. So if you're not seeing stars very well, definitely do that. But the Big Dipper is its official constellation is called Ursa Major, which is the Big Bear. And it's the big bear both in the Greek tradition. It's also a bear in some Native American traditions, such as Lakota and Iroquois. There it is. There's the bear, the really long tail. And you can use the Big Dipper to find a number of other stars. For example, the North Star that I was talking about. There it is. So if you follow the edge of that cup on the dipper all the way over to another bright star there, and that's going to be the North Star, which is also called Polaris. And it is part of another constellation that's called Ursa Minor, which is the little bear. So Ursa meaning bear, and then major meaning big, or minor meaning small. So we've got our two bears there.
And I know it's a little bit hard to see. If you guys had a little telescope, you might be able to zoom in and get just a little bit better of an idea of where that star is. So I'll zoom in here for you guys so you can see that Polaris is nice and bright, and you can usually stick your fingers out and make that line up in the sky. So if you make that line, the brightest star that your thumb or pinky is touching is probably Polaris.
So if you're ever lost and need to find north, that's the way to do it. So the Big Dipper can also be used to find a few other stars and constellations. So if we head back out, and instead of following the edge of the dipper, we're going to follow the handle this time. So this is a little trick that we call arc to Arcturus. So we follow that arc all the way to a nice big bright red star called Arcturus. And it's in a constellation called Boötes.
Let's see if we can find Boötes.
Yeah.
Get a nice line for him. Yeah, there we go.
I think he looks a little bit like an ice cream cone.
Or a chicken drumstick, maybe.
Ooh, that too. I like that better. So after we do that arc to Arcturus, we can find another nice bright star called Spica. So we do this arc to Arcturus, then we spike to Spica down here. And that's a nice bright blue star. So Spica is in a constellation called Virgo. And you might recognize Virgo as being one of the 12 signs, the zodiac constellations. Those are just constellations that lie along the sun's path. There's nothing particularly special about them. But Spica's in Virgo right there. So from Spica, after we spike to Spica, we can do another fun little thing, which is called leap to Leo. And this is just a little tricky thing where you just look for the pattern and you jump over to a constellation called Leo. And, oh, there we go. So Leo is supposed to be a lion.
And another great way to find Leo, if you're having trouble leaping from Spica, is if you go back to that Big Dipper. You can imagine the Big Dipper as a big pot that you fill with water, and then you poke a hole in the bottom of that pot, and the water drips down onto the big kitty that does not like getting wet.
So we have a question here from Genesis who wanted to know, were the stars brighter for the Greeks? So the stars themselves, not necessarily, but they probably, like the stars in general, you could see more of them because there wasn't all that light pollution that we have. So they probably saw a lot more like stars. So their sky might have looked a little bit more like this, or like when you go over in the mountains, because there isn't that light pollution. Right, so,
absolutely.
Oh yeah. So we've got, this is tonight in June, but the summer doesn't just happen on June 2nd. So let's go ahead and fast forward a bit and take a look at the sky on July 2nd. And we have a question from Bubby who said, who discovered the brightest star? So the brightest star is actually kind of a tricky question because how bright a star is depends on how close it is to us and how bright it actually is in general. So if you have a really, really bright light bulb and a kind of dim light bulb, if you have your dim light bulb right in front of your face and the really bright one is 20 miles away, you're going to say that really dim one is brighter. And that other one really far away is dimmer. But if you put them next to each other, you would know which one's brighter. So finding the brightest star could mean you're finding the star that looks the brightest from here. And that would be for us, Sirius, which isn't up right now in the summer. So that's the brightest from here. But the brightest star in and of itself, I don't know off the top of my head. But to decide which one was the brightest, they would have had to make a whole catalog. And I don't remember what the earliest star catalog would be. I'm so sorry.
I'm sure it was pretty impressive, though. I'm sure our ancients had an impressive star chart.
Absolutely. So we've got the sky here on July 2nd. So let's orient ourselves a little bit. Can you pull up the Big Dipper again, Amanda?
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll notice it really hasn't moved too much.
So it hasn't moved terribly much, but it has moved just a little bit here. But so you'll see different stars that are up a little bit higher or lower, depending on where. So for example, we've got a constellation called Hercules that's up a bit higher in the sky now. There he is.
Limbs flailing about.
So Hercules kind of looks like he's doing a muscle pose there, but upside down.
I like it.
And then in July, one reason I wanted to pull up July is there actually is a pretty decent meteor shower going on from mid-July to mid-August, and it should peak around the end of July. It's called the Aquariids. It's best after 11 p.m. Let's go ahead and head over to August, though, because a lot of these stars are pretty similar.
Absolutely. The last thing that I would just add to Rémy's last comment is if you do want to watch that meteor shower and you are able to go to a dark place and you're able to stay up pretty late, look towards the constellation Aquarius. And you can get an app on your phone that might help you find that constellation if you're having trouble, but that's the place you want to be looking if you want to see that meteor shower.
Can we pull up Aquarius really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's find.
We can show them which direction we want to look. So Amanda has to pull all these things up in real time, and there are thousands of buttons that she has to sift through to find them.
Yeah, there are lots of them, and they've all got different names. So here, we're going to go to about 11:30, and we're going to remove Hercules so that you guys will know to look towards Aquarius, which is going to be all the way over in the eastern sky.
So look to the east if you manage to get out of the city lights there. So let's fast forward to August, because that's also summer. I want to point out a few other things. So right now,
this time I'll leave the, sorry, I would just say we'll leave the Big Dipper up so that you guys can watch how the sky changes.
Mm-hmm. So you notice the sky doesn't do just like the sun does, where it goes east-west. What happens is it twirls around that North Star, because that's where the North Pole of the Earth is pointed. So when it turns around, that's the spot that stays the same. So in August, we can really see very well, like in the middle of our screen at the top of our sky, what's called the summer triangle. And the summer triangle is 3 really bright stars that make, you guessed it, a triangle. So those stars are Deneb, Altair, and Vega. So those stars are part of 3 different constellations. You've got Deneb as part of a constellation called Cygnus, the swan. You've got Altair as being part of a constellation called 𝐀𝐜𝐭𝐢𝐯, the eagle, and Vega being part of a constellation called Lyra, the lyre, which is a musical instrument. So I think we have those in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead. We've got that first star. It's kind of up towards the left a little bit. That top left one, that's Deneb. And like Rémy said, Deneb is part of Cygnus the Swan, which is a really beautiful constellation. And we'll look at some constellations that don't really make a lot of sense, but Cygnus is one that definitely looks like a big swan in the sky. Do you want to tell them what Deneb means, Rémy?
So Deneb is, as you can see, a star that's over in the tail of the swan, and it means swan tail, or if you want to translate it a little differently, it could mean swan butt. It's a lovely name for a lovely star.
Very fitting, absolutely. Then the next one I'm going to bring up is going to be Vega, which is going to be that rightmost star. It kind of sticks out on its own a little bit. And Vega is in the constellation of Lyra, which is a harp, just like Rémy said earlier. Now, I don't really see a harp from this constellation line. Here, we'll take away some of these other ones. Super tiny. but when we get the artwork in there, totally makes sense.
Kinda. So that is the point of constellations. You know, you get these nice patterns, and it really does depend on what you're kind of looking for, what sort of picture you see.
And then we've got our last one, which is Altair, which is that bottommost star right here. And Altair is part of Aquila the Eagle, which we've got here.
There we go. Kind of eagle-like. About as eagle-like as this is swan-like. We'll go with it.
Absolutely. Here, we'll ruin the image in your mind by adding the artwork that makes no sense at all.
It's good. So the stars, a couple of the stars in this summer triangle are really important, especially in Eastern Asian tradition. So you've got Altair and Vega. And in Chinese traditions, there's a story or a festival called the Qixi Festival. In Japan, it's called the Tanabata, and then in Korea, it's called Chuseok. And you have these two stars, Altair and Vega, that represent these two lovers. And they are separated over a river, which is the Milky Way there. So the Milky Way can be a number of different things in different traditions. Maybe it's a river, maybe it's a path of birds. In this, it's a river, and you have these two lovers on opposite sides, and they're only allowed to meet once a year. On the 7th day of the 7th month, then a bunch of magpies make a bridge so that they can meet each other, and there's a huge festival. And that takes place in the 7th day of the 7th month in the lunar calendar. For China and South Korea, that would be August 25th, and then Japan, it would be July 7th, 7/7. So that's another really big story that we have in the sky there. Another good constellation we have up right now is Scorpius.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. You might have to get rid of the time and day down there to see it a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get that out of the way. And find our Scorpius friend.
So Scorpius is really down south and is, in fact, a little bit more important to the traditions in the southern hemisphere. Whereas the Greeks saw it as a giant scorpion, you can kind of maybe see how it sort of could be a scorpion. Polynesian cultures like Hawaii, Samoa, they saw it as a giant fishhook, Maui's fishhook, in fact. So instead of that scorpion there with its tail, what they see is that whole fishhook, which you might remember from Moana. He had that big fishhook there. That's the tradition that came from. So when we talk, oh, go for it.
I was going to say that movie is really cool because everything that you see in there is all accurate. So if you haven't seen it and you like the idea of navigating by the stars, it's a good movie to watch.
Absolutely. It's got some really neat stuff about navigating by stars. So one thing we pointed out, remember the Milky Way. So the Milky Way does have a center, and I'll show you a really neat way that you can find the center of it. And you can use it by finding a constellation called Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, in the middle of it, has what kind of looks like a teapot. You can't really see it particularly well with this one. Do we have a little teapot line?
Yeah, we sure do. Let's put the teapot up. That definitely looks a lot better. There we go.
So there's the teapot you can kind of see there. And the spout of it is pointing right to the center of the Milky Way. So if you can find that teapot, even if you can't see the Milky Way, you know exactly where the center is. And around this time, actually, we have a few planets up. We've got Jupiter and Saturn are up, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and take our telescope out and check those out.
Ooh, yes. So as a note, because the sky does change and move around like that, these are things that you'll be able to see in June and July. It'll just be much later in the night. So here's Jupiter you can find. If Jupiter's ever that big in the sky, you should probably be concerned. Usually it's just a really big bright light. And there's Saturn. Also, if Saturn is that big, be even more concerned. If Saturn's further away and should be much smaller. So those are some really, oh, go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to be concerned, but you also got to appreciate the view just a little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. Got to appreciate that. So those are some neat things that you can find in the sky this summer, all the way from June to August. If you find any of them, let us know. What sort of pictures would you say that you see in these ones? You can let us know in the comments below. We've had some kids share their ideas. So remember Scorpius, we could take a look at some ideas that some kids had there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about Scorpius, and we talked about how it's a fish hook, or maybe it's a scorpion to some people. We have some really awesome pictures from some kids who told us what they thought it looks like to them. And I really like this one. This one's pretty good. This one's the mermaid. And that suits it pretty well.
Yeah.
Then we have alien werewolf.
I like alien werewolf.
I think that one's pretty good too.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a rattlesnake Jake.
Rattlesnake Jake. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So lots of different ideas out there.
Mm-hmm. If you have any ideas based on the little constellations, definitely try them out and let us know. If you want any other activities to do with the kids at home, we have a few links in the description just for some fun sky-related stuff to do. Maybe draw some neat pictures like that. Let us know if you try any of them. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends. If you have any other questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat right now. We'll make sure that the slow mode is off.
Yep, we checking now.
Yep. In the meantime, if we want to throw up the constellation lines just to look at all of them, because we definitely don't have the time to point out every single constellation, but it's neat to see.
Okay, hopefully you guys can comment as fast as you want now. And yes, let's get a nice complete sky.
So I see a question. Denise wants to know, what's your favorite constellation? So my favorite constellation isn't up right now. My favorite constellation is Orion because it's easy to find and makes for really good segues for teaching people in the planetarium. But as far as constellations that are up right now, I think Cygnus is my favorite. What about you, Amanda?
I really like Cygnus. I really love animals in the sky. And there is this one constellation. It's named 𝐀𝐜𝐭𝐢𝐯𝐢𝐭𝐬. You would think it would be a camel, but no, it is a giraffe. And it's really cool. I
changed my mind. I like sky giraffe. So
Leo's pretty cool. Leo also has a mini Leo. So if you can ever go out and find a mini Leo too, that's pretty cute.
That's a good ones here. All right. So we're going to wrap it up here. I hope you guys had fun learning. Like I said, don't forget to like, share the video. Be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you can get alerts about more videos like these. Next week, Tuesday at 2, Amanda and Emily will be here to talk about rainbows in our universe. So again, thank you for joining us for today's stream. We here at Fiske are really glad to be part of your community and are really looking forward to spending summer with all of you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. See you guys next time.